Hey guys, tonight we're heading back, way back, to the warm stone streets of ancient Athens. You can almost smell the mix of olive oil and distant sea breeze drifting through the narrow lanes. The sun has just slipped behind the Acropolis, leaving the marble temples awash in a soft, honey-colored glow. People are still moving about, though slower now, as if the whole city knows that night will bring something special. You can hear faint laughter, a lyre plucking a sleepy tune somewhere, and the gentle thud of sandals on the dusty road. You probably wouldn't survive 5 minutes here without sunscreen or plumbing, but don't worry, you're just a quiet observer tonight. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing how far this sleepy little corner of history travels. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself walking along the edge of the Agora, the public square where Athenians spend their days arguing about politics, buying figs, and gossiping about who's secretly in love with whom. But tonight, things are different. The usual chatter of merchants and philosophers has quieted to a kind of anticipatory murmur. Lamps flicker to life one by one, like stars descending to street level. Tomorrow is a festival day, a sacred celebration that has nothing to do with war or debate. It's one of those rare times when even the city's endless discussions about democracy, taxes, and philosophy seem to fade into the background. The air itself feels calmer, the way it does before a rainstorm or right after sunset, when the world seems to pause. You pass a group of women balancing baskets of laurel leaves and fresh bread. Their chatter is light and rhythmic. Somewhere behind them, a potter hums as he finishes the last of his clay votive offerings, small figurines that will be placed at temples in thanks or in hope. It's work, but it's also devotion. Ancient Athens is not quiet by nature. It's a city that thrives on noise and opinion. But on nights like this, a strange tranquility takes hold. Even the dogs lounging by the stoas seem to sense it, lifting their heads lazily before curling back into sleep. You step over a drainage channel carved neatly into the stone and notice the faint shimmer of torchlight up ahead. Near the base of the Acropolis, people are gathering, not in a rush, but with the gentle rhythm of those who know the night will stretch long and slow. They're preparing for the Panathenea, one of the city's most beloved festivals in honor of Athena, the goddess of wisdom and protector of the polis. But tonight isn't about grandeur or ceremony just yet. Tonight is the eve before, the time when everyone, rich and poor, slave and citizen, finds small ways to prepare. A boy oils his sandals. A mother lays out her family's best tunic. The baker starts kneading early, humming a hymn so old no one remembers who first sang it. You stop for a moment beside a low wall, watching a group of youths practice flute melodies. The sound rises and falls like waves, just enough to make your eyelids droop. One boy misses a note, and the others laugh softly, not mocking, but easy, friendly laughter. The kind of laughter that feels ancient and modern all at once. Historians still argue whether these festivals were primarily religious ceremonies or civic tools designed to keep the population united. But standing here, you can feel how those two ideas are tangled together. Faith and fellowship, devotion and dinner, all woven into one gentle tapestry. An old man nearby is telling a story to a circle of children. His voice is low and unhurried. Something about Athena's birth, how she sprang from the head of Zeus fully armed. The kids giggle at the image, probably imagining the king of gods rubbing his forehead like someone with a very severe headache. The storyteller grins too. He's told this story hundreds of times, but it never gets old. As the stars sharpen overhead, torches are lit along the road leading up toward the Acropolis. You join the slow current of people moving in that direction, though there's no hurry. These are not frantic processions. The Greeks understood the art of walking together, not marching, not rushing, just existing in motion.
You pass a temple doorway where priests are arranging offerings. Olive oil lamps, small cakes, and bowls of barley are placed neatly on low stone tables. The smell of honey drifts in the air. You catch the faint metallic scent of bronze from a polished statue nearby, gleaming even in the low light. It's easy to forget that these people, centuries ago, felt the same mixture of fatigue and anticipation that you might feel before a big holiday. Some Athenians believed that certain festival days were so sacred that even saying something negative could bring bad luck. So for 24 hours, you were supposed to think only peaceful thoughts, a kind of ancient mindfulness challenge. You imagine trying that in modern life and can't help but smile. Up ahead, a musician tunes a kithara, plucking each string carefully. The soft notes float through the warm air, mingling with the quiet conversations around you. Someone offers you a cup of watered wine, the kind that's more about hospitality than intoxication. You accept it, feeling the clay rim cool against your fingers. The sip is light, slightly tart. The conversation drifts easily. People talk about the harvest, about a cousin who moved to Corinth, about whether the olive trees will bear more fruit this year. No politics, no gossip, just simple, harmless talk, perfect for an evening meant to quiet the spirit. You find a spot on a low wall overlooking the sleeping city. Below, you can see flickers of light tracing the shape of Athens. To your left, the silhouette of the Parthenon rises against the sky, still unfinished perhaps, but already magnificent. The marble catches the last hints of moonlight, turning it silver. A cooling breeze slips through the olive trees, and somewhere an owl hoots, Athena's bird, a small sign that the goddess herself is near. It's said that Athenians believed her presence could be felt in moments like this, in the quiet hum of contentment before a festival begins. Someone starts a slow chant nearby, a soft rhythmic repetition of ancient words. Others join in, not loud, not coordinated, just a murmur of human voices layered over the chirping of night insects. It's hypnotic. You can almost feel your breathing syncing with theirs. You glance up. The stars are unbelievably bright, no city lights to wash them away. Constellations the Greeks named long ago glimmer overhead. There's Orion, his belt clear and steady, and there the Pleiades cluster, faint but shimmering. Maybe you whisper their names too, half remembering them from some long ago textbook. As the night deepens, the crowd thins. Some people drift home, others unroll blankets and settle near the temple steps. You decide to stay a while longer. The stone beneath you is still warm from the day's sun, and it feels comforting, almost alive. It's in these moments, between the bustle of the day and the ceremony of tomorrow, that you realize why the Greeks valued their festivals so deeply. They weren't just excuses for parties or competitions, they were moments of shared stillness, a collective sigh that reminded everyone they belonged to something larger than themselves. Tomorrow there will be music and processions, offerings and cheers, but tonight is for quiet anticipation, for the hum of crickets, the flicker of torches, and the soft laughter of people who know they'll be part of something beautiful come morning. You let your eyes close for a moment. Somewhere in the distance, a temple bell hums. The sound is low, almost like the purr of the earth itself. You think of how many times this has happened, how many generations have stood here, listening, waiting. The night breathes, so do you. And for a few slow, drowsy minutes, you could almost believe you're one of them. You wake, or maybe you never really slept. The air is cool and still, brushed with the faintest hint of dawn. Somewhere nearby, a rooster calls out, probably too early, as they always do. You stretch your legs and watch the first pink light seep over the rooftops of Athens. The streets that were quiet and dreamy last night are beginning to stir again. You hear the low murmur of water being poured, the scrape of broom bristles sweeping dust from doorsteps, and the rhythmic clop of a mule's hooves heading toward the market. Today, Athens will celebrate. And as you move through these awakening streets, you start to realize that festivals in ancient Greece weren't just parties, they were the heartbeat of life itself. Everywhere you look, there's motion, but it's not frantic. Women stand in doorways brushing their hair, men roll up woven mats, and children chase each other around the corners of marble columns. The smell of baking barley bread drifts through the air, warm and faintly sweet. You follow the scent for a few steps, then stop to watch an old woman draw a fish symbol in the dust outside her home. She whispers something you can't quite catch, then erases it with her sandal, smiling faintly. You get the sense she's done this 1,000 times before. Part superstition, part prayer, part muscle memory.
The Greeks had a festival for almost everything. For gods and goddesses, for harvests and sea voyages, for victories, births, and even the gentle passing of the seasons. If you lived here long enough, your life would become a procession of festivals, each one marking a new rhythm in the year. Historians still argue whether these endless celebrations were meant to appease fickle gods or simply to keep the human spirit from collapsing under the weight of daily life. You suspect it was both. Because life in ancient Greece, as beautiful as it could be, wasn't exactly a spa retreat. Most people worked hard from sunrise to sunset. Farmers plowing rocky soil, artisans hunched over their tools, slaves carrying amphora up steep hills in the midday heat. But festivals gave everyone something to look forward to, a break from monotony that felt like a communal breath of relief. You pass by a stone fountain where people are filling clay jars. The water catches the light like a liquid mirror. A man nearby tells his son, "Every day belongs to the gods, but on festival days, they let us borrow a bit of it." The boy nods solemnly, though you can tell he doesn't quite understand yet. And maybe that's the point. You don't have to understand celebration for it to work. You just have to join in. The Greeks called these events hiortai, and nearly every city-state had its own unique calendar filled with them. Some were grand and loud, the Dionysia, for instance, where plays and wine flowed freely. Others were quiet and local, like the harvest offerings to Demeter. But no matter their size, all shared the same gentle purpose: to connect humans to the divine and to each other. You pass through the agora again, now alive with preparation. Stalls are decorated with garlands of ivy and laurel. Bakers arrange honey cakes in neat rows, each one shaped like a tiny bird. Musicians test their flutes, their fingers tapping out soft scales that echo through the square. A young woman approaches an altar, places a small loaf of bread upon it, and bows her head. It's a simple act, but you feel the sincerity in it. Her gesture isn't grand or desperate, it's grateful. Gratitude seems to hum through everything here. A quirky tidbit you overhear from two chatting vendors. During certain festivals, Athenians were forbidden from working, arguing, or even holding court. Imagine a city full of politicians who legally couldn't debate for an entire day. It must have felt like a miracle. One vendor chuckles, saying, "Even the gods need a break from speeches." You can't help but laugh quietly, too. You walk along the path toward the base of the Acropolis, where the first rays of sunlight hit the pale stone steps. A group of young men is practicing for the procession. They move in rhythm, their tunics swaying gently, holding branches of olive leaves. There's a calm focus in their expressions, the kind that comes from doing something both old and important. Nearby, a philosopher leans against a pillar, gesturing animatedly with a fig in hand as he explains to his sleepy-looking friend that festivals are the truest expression of philosophy because they balance the soul. His friend nods slowly, though it might just be the early hour making him agreeable. Plans for the evening feast, worries about rain, debates about which hymn should be sung first. But beneath all of it, there's an unspoken current, a shared sense of belonging. The Greek world wasn't unified by a single ruler or empire in this period, but by its shared rituals. Across islands and mountains, people honored the same gods, sang the same hymns, and told the same stories. A shepherd on Naxos and a potter in Athens might never meet, but both would bow their heads during the same prayer to Apollo. You think about how rare that is now. How often our celebrations divide more than they unite. But here, in this ancient city, joy is a communal act. Even the quiet ones, like you, find their place in it. A group of children runs past carrying small clay figurines, miniature animals they'll place at a shrine later. One boy drops his and gasps as it shatters. His mother bends down, scoops the pieces into her hands, and whispers something to him. You catch only a few words. The gods like broken things too. You wonder if she means that in a literal sense or something more. The street ahead opens into a small courtyard where women are weaving the peplos, the great ceremonial robe for Athena's statue. The loom clacks softly, rhythmic and hypnotic. The threads shimmer gold and blue in the early light. You stand quietly for a while, listening to the steady sound of work that feels sacred. Historians still debate whether these women were honored craftswomen or temple servants, but you can tell from their concentration that, titles aside, they feel honored just to be part of it. Each thread is a prayer in itself. Somewhere behind you, a priest lights incense. The smell of burning myrrh drifts over the crowd, sweet and slightly bitter. It mixes with the scent of roasting barley from a nearby stall. Your stomach growls and you laugh under your breath. Even sacred mornings don't make you immune to hunger. You find a place to sit at the edge of a stone step and watch the city unfurl in the growing light. You can see the rooftops catching gold, the distant shimmer of the sea beyond the Piraeus, and the faint blue outline of mountains. Athens feels eternal in this moment, alive and ancient all at once. You think about how festivals like this one were more than just days off. They were ways of remembering what it meant to live well, to eat, to sing, to give thanks, to see beauty even in ordinary work. You start to realize that the ancient Greeks didn't just celebrate their gods, they celebrated existence itself. And maybe that's why their festivals endured for centuries, not because of fear or obligation, but because they gave people permission to slow down, to notice the sweetness in their wine, the laughter in their neighbors' eyes, the warmth of the sun on white stone. A flock of doves bursts from the roof of a temple, wings flashing white against the sky. You follow their flight until they vanish over the hills. A breeze rises, carrying the scent of olive blossoms. Someone beside you murmurs, "It's a good day for Athena." You nod, even though you're not sure what qualifies as a good day for a goddess. Maybe it's just this, quiet joy shared among thousands. And as the city comes fully awake, with its soft hum of footsteps and laughter and song, you feel yourself settling into its rhythm. This isn't a world of grand gestures or loud miracles. It's a world where peace hides in the small, ordinary details, in bread and music, in the pause between footsteps, in the moment before celebration begins. You breathe in slowly. The morning sun warms your skin. Somewhere in the distance, the first drumbeat of the coming procession sounds, a slow, deep pulse that seems to sync with your own heartbeat. The day of the festival has begun. The city feels different now. The gentle hum of morning has deepened into a steady, deliberate rhythm. Everywhere you turn, Athens seems to be stretching and smiling in preparation for the day ahead. You make your way through the winding streets toward the base of the Acropolis, where the festival preparations are in full swing. The sun is bright but not harsh yet, casting long golden stripes between the marble columns and clay rooftops. This is the day of the Panathenaea, the grand festival dedicated to Athena, the city's patron goddess. It's not just another holiday, it's the holiday, the moment when every Athenian, from philosopher to fishmonger, turns their attention to the goddess who watches over them. You can feel it in the air, reverence, excitement, and a strange sense of calm purpose. You pass a group of young girls carrying baskets of freshly cut flowers, roses, myrtle, and laurel. They walk in pairs, each basket resting on a small cushion balanced carefully on their heads. They look solemn, though one of them breaks into a grin when her friend whispers something mischievous. A nearby priest pretends not to notice. These girls, called arepheroi, play a sacred role in the festival.
All year, they've lived within the sanctuary of Athena Polias, weaving and assisting with temple tasks. Today, they'll help carry the peplos, a newly woven robe, up to the goddess's statue. It's an honor most Athenians will never experience, though the girls themselves seem half aware of the weight of it. You follow them with your eyes as they disappear up the slope toward the temple gates. The clack of their sandals fades beneath the hum of other preparations. Nearby, artisans are busy polishing bronze fittings and setting up wooden platforms for tomorrow's procession. Hammers tap, ropes creak, and somewhere a chorus rehearses a hymn, their voices floating like a light mist through the air. You stop near a shaded corner where two old men are arguing over the proper color of Athena's robe. "Blue," insists one, "to match the sea that protects us." The other shakes his head slowly. "No, gold, because she brings wisdom that shines." They turn to you for judgment, but you just smile and shrug. Historians still argue about it too. A young boy runs past, nearly tripping over a coiled rope. His mother calls after him, half scolding, half laughing. "Slow down, even Hermes would take his time today." You chuckle softly. Festivals seem to soften everyone's edges. Anger turns into laughter, worry into song. The smell of olive oil and baking bread drifts through the streets. Vendors have set up small stands offering sweets dipped in honey, roasted chickpeas, and little cups of wine diluted with water. You take one and sip, the cool liquid soothing against the dry air. The vendor winks at you and says, "For the goddess, but also for you." The crowd thickens as you approach the Areopagus, the rocky hill that overlooks the city. From here, you can see all of Athens, the marketplace, the temples, the rooftops crowded with terracotta tiles, and beyond that, the glinting blue of the Aegean Sea. People are everywhere, and yet the mood isn't chaotic. It's busy, yes, but rhythmic, like a song everyone already knows the tune to. You find yourself next to a group of women weaving garlands. Their hands move swiftly, tying flowers together in long, fragrant chains. One of them hums as she works, a tune so old it probably predates writing. She pauses to sprinkle a few drops of oil on the ground, murmuring a quiet blessing. "For good weather," she explains when she catches your curious glance, "and for fewer mosquitoes." You both laugh softly. A quirky tidbit floats through your mind. Did you know that during the Panathenea, even prisoners were released temporarily so they could take part in the celebration? The Greeks believed that on sacred days, peace itself should reign, even for those who had broken the laws. It's a strangely gentle idea for a world often remembered for its wars. You imagine those freed men standing awkwardly among the crowds, unsure whether to smile or look repentant. Further up the slope, a small group of sculptors are putting final touches on the ceremonial statues that will be displayed during the parade. You pause to watch one of them carve delicate folds into a piece of marble, his chisel tapping like a heartbeat. The figure takes shape slowly, graceful, calm, utterly human and divine all at once. You can almost feel the meditative patience in his movements. The sculptor doesn't glance up, but you sense he's aware of your gaze. "The trick," he mutters, "is to imagine she's breathing." His voice is low and steady. You nod, not sure whether he means the statue or Athena herself. The city bells sound again, a gentle, resonant chime that ripples across the hills. You feel a small thrill of anticipation. Around you, people start gathering in groups, finishing their tasks and exchanging smiles. There's a shared understanding that everything now is leading towards something bigger, the procession that will wind through the streets tomorrow, carrying the sacred robe to Athena's temple. You wander toward a courtyard where the peplos itself is being prepared. It's an extraordinary thing, woven by women chosen for their skill and devotion, embroidered with scenes of gods and heroes, their victories, and their gifts to humankind. The fabric catches the light, shimmering like a living thing. You can almost hear the stories it tells through its threads. A woman kneels nearby, trimming a loose thread. Her face is calm, eyes focused. "Every stitch matters," she says quietly, to no one in particular.
Athena sees them all. You wonder how many hours went into this single garment, how many hands have touched it. Historians still debate whether the peplos was offered every year or only during the Grand Panathenaea held every 4 years. You decide that. Either way, the care given to it must have felt the same, meticulous, loving, timeless. You notice something else as you linger there. No one rushes. Even with so much to do, there's no frantic energy. The Greeks seemed to understand that sacred work couldn't be hurried. The slower it went, the more meaning it gathered. You watch the weavers and priests and sculptors moving at their own pace, like dancers in a long, silent ritual. The afternoon light turns golden again, dust motes floating lazily in the air. Somewhere nearby, a boy is practicing the flute. The melody rises and falls, imperfect but beautiful in its simplicity. You find yourself swaying slightly, letting the rhythm wash through you. Someone offers you a piece of bread, sprinkled with sesame and dipped in oil. You take it, the taste earthy and comforting. "For good luck," the man says, nodding as if it's obvious. You nod back, crumbs on your lips. The day drifts by this way, slowly, peacefully, with moments of quiet beauty hidden in every corner. Even the animals seem affected by it. A donkey brays softly, then settles back down, as though it too understands this is not a day for hurry. As evening approaches, the city glows again. The same lamps you saw last night flicker to life, but now the mood is different, warmer, fuller. The hard work is nearly done. Tomorrow, the great procession will fill these streets with music and movement. But tonight, the people of Athens will rest in the comfort of shared accomplishment. You make your way back toward the agora, where small groups have gathered to eat and talk. Someone plays a soft tune on a lyre. A young woman sings, her voice so gentle it feels like it's made of silk. You can't make out the words, but the emotion is unmistakable, something between gratitude and peace. You find a quiet spot near a low wall, sitting down to watch the city settle into its evening rhythm. Smoke rises from cooking fires, blending with the scent of roasted barley and figs. Children chase each other, their laughter echoing through the square. In moments like this, you understand why these festivals mattered so much. They weren't just acts of worship, they were acts of belonging. A reminder that everyone, from the humblest potter to the highest priest, shared the same sky, the same stories, the same need for joy. You lean back, the stones still warm beneath you, and let the sounds of the city lull you into a kind of waking dream. The night hums softly, full of promise and memory. Tomorrow will be grand. Tonight, though, Athens sleeps with a smile. Morning comes softly again, but this time the air feels charged. You can sense it before you even open your eyes. The faint vibration of drums somewhere in the distance. The sound of sandals brushing against cobblestones. The hushed excitement of hundreds of voices gathering at once. You sit up, stretch, and breathe in the scent of olive oil, dust, and smoke curling from cooking fires. It's the day of the procession. The Panathenaic dawn is golden, clear, and mild. The kind of morning that makes even the gods, if they were watching, pause to admire their handiwork. You step out into the street, and already the narrow lanes are alive with motion. People are streaming toward the Acropolis in slow, measured lines. Men carrying olive branches, women balancing woven baskets, children clutching garlands of flowers. Every face you see holds that same look, reverent but content, serious but at ease. You join the flow, your sandals scuffing lightly against the worn stone. The streets smell faintly of incense and crushed petals. Somewhere nearby, a group of women chant the opening hymn to Athena. Low, rhythmic, almost like a lullaby. It's said that during the Panathenaea, the whole city seemed to breathe together, as though one giant heart beat beneath its marble skin. You pass a row of men leading oxen draped with ribbons, their horns painted gold for the sacrifice that will come later. The animals move slowly, unafraid, their sides gleaming in the sunlight.
A small boy reaches out to pat one of them on the nose, and the ox lowers its head gently, as if bowing in return. The crowd laughs softly. Even solemnness, it seems, has a sense of humor today.
Historians still argue whether the Panathenaic procession began at dawn or a bit later, after the morning prayers. But either way, it's a spectacle that would have drawn the entire city out of their homes. The procession winds from the Dippolon Gate through the heart of Athens, ending at the Acropolis itself, where Athena's statue waits to receive her new robe. You can see the beginning of the line now, a shimmering ribbon of color, sunlight glancing off bronze helmets, linen tunics, and garlands of green. A group of young maidens leads the way, carrying small golden vessels of honey and oil. Their pace is steady, graceful, almost meditative. Behind them march the elders of the city, followed by musicians playing flutes and lyres. The melodies are slow and gentle, each note lingering in the air like the echo of a sigh. You can't help but sway slightly as you walk beside them. There's a sense of order to it all, not rigid, but harmonious. The Greeks didn't just walk, they moved with intention, each step echoing a rhythm older than memory. You imagine how many generations before have walked this same route, their hearts lifted by the same music, their eyes turned toward the same hill. As you approach the main avenue, the crowd grows denser. Vendors stand off to the sides, offering water and fruit to those who need a pause. A woman presses a fig into your hand, saying softly, "For strength, the climb is long." You thank her, biting into the fruit. It's sweet and soft, juice running down your fingers. You lick it away and smile. Ahead, you catch sight of the peplos, the great woven robe held high between two poles, rippling in the light breeze. It's magnificent. Deep saffron threads embroidered with scenes of gods and giants, the stories of the world stitched into its fabric. It sways gently as the bearers move, glowing like fire in the morning sun. People along the road bow their heads as it passes. You find yourself doing the same, instinctively. You notice how quiet it becomes for a moment. Even the chatter of children fades. All you hear are the soft footfalls of the procession, the hum of a flute, and the rustle of cloth in the wind. The effect is hypnotic. You feel like you're part of something vast and ancient, something that's been happening since time began. A quirky tidbit flickers through your mind. You've heard that during the Panathenea, chariots and riders would sometimes join the procession, their horses' hooves echoing off the stone streets. The riders carried olive branches and wore wreaths on their heads. But they weren't racing today. They were honoring the goddess, not competing. It's the rarest kind of parade, one with no hurry, no destination more important than the journey itself. You glance upward. The Acropolis looms ahead now, its white marble glowing against the blue sky. The steps look steep, but no one complains. The whole procession slows naturally, almost reverently, as they begin the ascent. A group of flute players takes up a new melody, soft, steady, like waves lapping against a shore. The rhythm helps everyone keep time, a kind of communal heartbeat guiding the climb. You walk alongside a group of older men carrying olive wreaths. One of them, gray-haired and cheerful, catches your eye. "First time?" he asks with a grin. You nod, and he chuckles. "Don't trip on the steps. The goddess notices everything." He winks and adjusts his wreath before turning back toward the front. You make a mental note to walk very carefully. Halfway up the hill, you pause to catch your breath and look back. The view takes you by surprise. The entire city sprawls beneath you. White walls, red roofs, and the glimmer of the Aegean beyond. From up here, the procession looks like a living river of color winding through the streets, flowing toward the sacred rock. The sight fills you with a strange mixture of awe and tranquility. Historians still debate how exactly the Athenians experienced moments like this. Was it deeply religious, civic pride, collective joy? You suspect it was all three at once. A harmony of feelings, like the chords of a lyre blending together into one peaceful sound. As you near the top, the air changes. The scent of incense grows stronger, and the sounds soften to a low murmur. The temple of Athena Polias comes into view, its columns catching the light like frozen sunbeams. The crowd parts respectfully as the bearers of the peplos approach. Priests and priestesses step forward, their movements deliberate and serene. The robe is raised high one final time before being carried into the temple. You can't see the statue from where you stand, but you imagine it. Athena seated, calm and eternal, her bronze face reflecting the flicker of torchlight. The robe will be draped over her shoulders, a gesture of love and renewal, a reminder that the city still belongs to her and she to it. For a few moments, silence reigns. Even the wind seems to still. The only sound is the faint crackle of the torches. Then, slowly, a low hum begins, voices rising together in a hymn of gratitude. It isn't loud or grand, but soft, collective, deeply human. You join in, though you don't know the words. It doesn't matter. The melody itself is enough. When the song ends, people begin to drift again, quietly, contentedly. Some linger at the temple steps, others head down toward the agora, where food and music await. Children laugh and chase each other through the olive trees. The tension that built through the climb dissolves into laughter and gentle chatter. You stay a while longer at the top, sitting on a low stone ledge and watching the city below. The morning sun is higher now, bright and warm on your skin. You can hear distant echoes of flutes and drums, the pulse of celebration continuing below. You think of how every face you saw this morning, every craftsman, every child, every elder, played a part in this great, peaceful ritual. And maybe that's the beauty of it. The festival isn't just for Athena, it's for everyone. A shared rhythm that reminds the city who it is, a place of art, thought, worship, and community. You smile, stretching your legs out, feeling the warmth of the stone beneath you. Somewhere behind you, the priest's voice carries faintly in the air, offering one final prayer to the goddess. You don't understand every word, but you catch the tone, gratitude, reverence, love. And as the breeze stirs again, carrying the scent of olive and smoke, you realize how rare and precious it is to feel at peace, simply standing still. The morning fades gently into afternoon, and Athens begins to celebrate in full. But for now, up here on the hill, everything feels timeless. The goddess has her gift. The people have their joy. And you, well, you have this quiet moment, perched between sky and stone, watching the world hum softly below. The sun has reached its gentle climb above the marble rooftops of Athens, spilling golden warmth across the stones of the Acropolis. The great procession has ended, the offerings have been given, and now the city breathes out in slow relief, like a collective exhale after hours of anticipation. The air hums not with ceremony now, but with song. You wander down from the sacred hill into the heart of the city, following the faint sound of strings carried on the wind. The rhythm is soft, slow, and inviting, not the loud crash of celebration, but something more tender. It feels like the sound of someone remembering. You find yourself in a small square near the agora, where a circle of musicians has gathered under the shade of an old olive tree. They sit cross-legged on woven mats, surrounded by curious children and resting adults, their instruments gleaming faintly in the light. One plucks a lyre, that simple, perfect instrument of strings and wood, cradled gently like a child. Another blows into an alos, a double-piped flute whose tone trembles and sings like wind over water. The melody is soft and unhurried. The lyre hums in gentle waves, each note ringing clear and pure before fading back into the air. The alos joins in, weaving a second voice that seems to float just above the first. It's music that doesn't demand attention. It drifts through the crowd like the scent of incense, something you feel before you notice you've been listening. Nearby, a few dancers rise,
young men and women with bare feet and loose linen tunics. Their movements are slow, deliberate, almost meditative. They don't twirl or leap, but step and sway in gentle rhythm, their hands tracing soft arcs through the air. The music seems to guide them, or maybe they guide the music. The difference hardly matters. It's all part of the same quiet harmony. You sit on a low stone bench, watching the dance unfold. The rhythm is unlike anything from the modern world. No strict beat, no fixed measure. It flows like breath, expanding, contracting, pausing. Each dancer moves with the calm certainty of someone who knows that beauty doesn't need to rush. You can almost feel your heartbeat slowing to match the rhythm of their feet. It's said that the ancient Greeks believed music was divine, a gift from the gods themselves. To them, the lyre wasn't just an instrument, but a bridge between mortal thought and divine order. Apollo played it, and through it, men could understand a sliver of celestial harmony. Even the word music comes from the muses, those quiet patrons of art, thought, and inspiration. As the afternoon lengthens, the circle of listeners grows. Someone brings wine, and the cup passes gently from hand to hand. No one drinks quickly. Every sip seems to match the rhythm of the lyre's song, slow, smooth, and lingering. Laughter rises softly, blending with the notes in the air. Children clap their hands to the beat, their small voices joining the melody for a moment before fading again. A storyteller joins the musicians, his voice calm and low. He begins to speak between the verses of music, not loudly, but in a tone that carries easily. He tells of Orpheus, the poet who played his lyre so beautifully that even stones were said to move closer to listen. He tells of how music, in those old myths, could soothe monsters, calm tempests, and even charm the hearts of the gods. The crowd listens in perfect stillness. It's as if the entire square has fallen under Orpheus's spell, centuries later, through this humble circle of strings and voices. When the tale ends, a woman with long dark hair begins another song. Her voice is soft but clear, not trained, not showy, but rich with warmth. She sings a hymn to Athena, a melody that might once have been heard during the festival's earliest days. You don't know the words, but you catch fragments. Wisdom, olive, city, light. The way she sings makes you feel as though each word is being offered rather than performed. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the song wash through you. It's astonishing how quiet joy can be, how deeply peace can resonate when carried by sound instead of silence. Around you, the crowd sways gently, as if everyone shares the same heartbeat. Later, the rhythm changes. A man begins to play a more playful tune on a hand drum, the kind that calls to the feet before the mind can think. The dancers respond instantly, laughter bubbling from their lips as they spin in loose circles. The older musicians grin, plucking their strings a little faster, the flutes chiming in like birds startled into flight. Still, even in its liveliness, the music remains gentle, not a roar, but a ripple. It's celebration without frenzy, joy without noise. The Greeks knew the difference well. Their music wasn't about overpowering the senses, but aligning them, tuning body and spirit to the same calm frequency. You think of what Plato once wrote, that music was the soul of the cosmos, that every movement of the heavens had its own hidden song. Perhaps this is what he meant, not the loud spectacle of performance, but this, people gathered under a tree, sharing sound, story, and stillness. As evening begins to stretch its long shadows across the square, torches are lit. The light flickers on the strings of the lyre, on the faces of the musicians, on the olive leaves swaying overhead. The music slows again, a final hymn before rest. The melody is simple, repetitive, soothing. You find yourself breathing in time with it. One of the older musicians, his hair white and wild, smiles as he plays. His fingers move softly over the strings, and you can see how the music isn't something he performs,
It's something that lives through him. His eyes are half closed, his lips curved in quiet peace. Each note feels like a heartbeat, steady and eternal. When the last note fades, the silence that follows is not empty, it's full, thick with gratitude, memory, and that strange stillness that comes after something perfect has ended. No one claps, no one needs to. The music has done its work. It has quieted the world. Gradually, people rise and drift away. The dancers bow, the musicians pack their instruments, and the square empties into the evening. The smell of oil lamps and cooking bread fills the air again. Somewhere nearby, a mother hums the same melody to her child, turning an ancient hymn into a lullaby. You linger beneath the olive tree a while longer, watching the torchlight flicker across the cobblestones. The lyre's echo seems to stay in the air, faint, ghostly, but comforting. You realize then that music, for the Greeks, was more than entertainment. It was prayer, memory, medicine. It was the art of turning the noise of life into harmony. And perhaps that's why, even now, thousands of years later, the thought of that small gathering brings calm. It's easy to imagine the gentle strum of the lyre in the dark, the whisper of sandals against stone, the laughter fading into the night. The city will sleep soon, but for now, Athens hums quietly, wrapped in the soft echo of its own music, the lullaby of gods and mortals alike, forever drifting through the olive-scented air. The sun dips lower now, spilling its amber light across the sea of tents and market stalls that surround the city. You wander down from the Acropolis, your feet tracing paths worn smooth by centuries of celebration. The air feels softer tonight, like the city itself is winding down from its days of worship and games, slipping quietly into its favorite pastime, feasting. If the mornings belong to prayer and the afternoons to strength, then the evenings, without question, belong to food. You follow the scent of roasting lamb and herbs, drifting like a magnetic trail through the streets. The Greeks never needed an excuse to eat well, but during a festival, they turned every meal into an art form. The agora, normally the place for business and politics, is now transformed into a garden of aromas and laughter. Olive oil glistens in the torchlight, honey drips from golden pastries, and somewhere a fishmonger yells good-naturedly that his catch was swimming at sunrise. You doubt it, but you appreciate his confidence. You stop near a stall where an elderly woman is arranging platters of bread and fruit. She notices your gaze and gestures for you to try some. "Eat," she says warmly. "No one should listen to music or the gods on an empty stomach." The bread is soft and fragrant, baked with herbs and a hint of sesame. You take a bite. It's simple, earthy, perfect. She smiles knowingly, as if every loaf she's ever made has been waiting for this exact moment. Around you, the festival hums with an easy rhythm. Musicians sit cross-legged on low stools, plucking at lyres and tapping gentle beats on small hand drums. Their melodies drift lazily over the murmur of voices. People sit on woven mats or stone steps, passing jugs of watered wine and small plates between them. There's no rush, no chatter of urgency, just the slow, steady sound of human contentment. Nearby, a man is roasting fish on an open fire. He squeezes lemon over the sizzling flesh, and the air fills with that irresistible, sharp scent of citrus and salt. Fresh from Piraeus, he boasts, still dreaming of the sea. Someone nearby laughs, and you do too. It's not just food, it's conversation, story, and memory, all rolled into one. You find a spot beside a low wall, joining a group of strangers who seem unconcerned that you weren't invited. One passes you a fig, another a small bowl of olives. You return the favor with your wine. No one needs to say thank you. The exchange itself is the language. The table, or rather the collective sprawl of baskets and plates, is a little chaotic. There's roasted goat, soft cheese flecked with thyme, honeyed barley cakes, and something that might be pickled artichoke, but you're not entirely sure. Everyone eats slowly,
occasionally gesturing toward the Acropolis, where the temple glows faintly in the distance. "She's watching," someone says, raising a cup to Athena, and hopefully approving of my appetite. Laughter ripples through the group. You can't help smiling. Even here, reverence and humor intertwine so naturally that you realize the Greeks probably wouldn't have understood our modern separation between sacred and ordinary. To them, the divine was always present, especially in moments like this. A storyteller rises then, his voice rich and worn like the fabric of an old robe. He speaks of Demeter and the first harvest, of how the goddess taught humankind to coax life from the soil. His tone is slow, soothing, the rhythm of someone who's told this story 1,000 times. Between lines, he pauses to take a sip of wine or to let the sound of the lyre behind him fill the space. You glance around. The listeners are still. Even the children are quiet, caught between the flicker of firelight and the gravity of myth. It's easy to see why storytelling and feasting went hand in hand here. The stories nourished something that bread could not. A quirky tidbit drifts into your mind. Guests would often bring their own cushions or stools, but utensils? Rarely. The Greeks preferred to eat with their hands, or with small pieces of bread used as makeshift spoons. Imagine that! Entire banquets with no cutlery, just laughter, fingers slick with olive oil, and the comfortable sound of chewing. It makes you realize how much ceremony modern dining has lost in the pursuit of tidiness. As the night deepens, the torches multiply. The flames dance against the clay walls and the shimmer of amphorae filled with wine. The music shifts again, slower now, softer. Someone starts to sing, a hymn that blurs the line between worship and lullaby. The words float like petals in the warm air, and you can't help but feel your eyelids grow heavier, your mind quieter. Historians still argue whether these great festival feasts were communal for all citizens or limited to the upper classes. The evidence, like most things ancient, is patchy. But tonight, watching the fisherman sit beside the sculptor, the farmer beside the philosopher, you can't imagine any divisions surviving the power of shared food and warmth. Hunger, it seems, was always the great equalizer. Across the square, a small group begins a light-hearted dance. It's not the grand procession kind, with solemn steps and rehearsed moves, just friends swaying, laughing, clapping in rhythm. One woman trips, nearly drops her cup, and recovers with a dramatic bow that sends everyone into gentle laughter. The lyre picks up speed, the drum follows, and for a moment, the entire scene feels like something outside of time. You catch a whiff of burning incense from a nearby altar. Someone has lit a small offering to Hestia, goddess of the hearth. The smoke curls upward, blending with the scent of roasted lamb and spiced wine. There's something profoundly comforting about it, this small act of gratitude tucked between laughter and song. An old man sitting near you leans closer, his eyes glinting in the firelight. "The gods don't need grand temples," he says quietly. "They just need moments like this." You nod, because you understand exactly what he means. As the meal winds down, people begin to recline, propping themselves on elbows or lying back entirely, staring at the stars overhead. The torches flicker lower, the conversations drift into softer tones. Someone hums a melody that no one quite remembers, but everyone seems to know. You look around at the faces glowing in the amber light, young, old, weary, joyful. It's not perfection, but something better, peace. The kind of peace that doesn't come from silence, but from harmony. The easy coexistence of voices, stories, and lives woven together for one gentle night. You take a final sip of wine, its sweetness lingering on your tongue. Somewhere in the distance, a temple bell sounds, one soft note marking the late hour. The music fades, the laughter thins, and gradually the city begins to sleep again. You stay seated for a moment longer, watching the last embers glow and die in the fire pits. You think about how many times this same scene must have played out, hundreds,
thousands of festivals across centuries, each with its own feast, its own laughter, its own slow drift into night. The food may have changed, the names forgotten, but the feeling, this quiet, full-bellied contentment, hasn't aged a day. You close your eyes and breathe in the scent of olives, bread, and cooling ash. For a moment, it's easy to imagine you're one of them, a simple guest at Athena's table, your worries traded for warmth and wine. The torches flicker one last time before winking out, and in the hush that follows, you can almost hear the city sigh with you. Morning drifts gently across the city again, soft and unhurried, like silk sliding over stone. You wake to the distant rhythm of hooves on cobblestone and the sound of shutters creaking open along narrow streets. Athens, still half dreaming from the night's festivities, stirs to life one breath at a time. The first light spills over the rooftops, illuminating faded frescoes and the delicate curls of carved marble. Smoke rises from small hearths where bread is already baking, filling the air with that familiar, comforting scent of warmth and grain. Somewhere nearby, a rooster crows, not for the first time, and a child giggles at the sound. The festival may have ended, but the city never truly sleeps. It only exhales and begins again. You step out onto the worn stone steps that lead toward the agora. The street is quieter than usual, though signs of life pulse beneath the surface. Women sweeping doorways, men rolling carts laden with amphorae, dogs weaving lazily between their legs. The air is cooler this morning, carrying with it a faint smell of rain that never came. As you walk, you pass a fountain where clear water trickles from a lion's mouth into a marble basin. A group of children are gathered there, splashing one another, their laughter echoing off the walls. A mother calls out gently, half scolding, half smiling, and they scatter like sparrows. The water, endlessly falling, glints in the early light, a small, quiet luxury that still feels miraculous even to those who see it every day. Further down, the agora is coming back to its usual rhythm. Merchants are setting up their stalls again, their voices carrying across the square. Gone are the festival banners, the torches, and the singing. What remains is the heartbeat of daily life. You can hear the scrape of bronze scales weighing olives, the chatter of bartering, the crisp rip of papyrus as a scribe begins his day's work. The city, once filled with laughter and wine, has returned to its other devotion, work. But even this has a kind of serenity to it. In Athens, work was never just labor, it was contribution, participation in the larger order of the polis. Whether one sold figs or sculpted gods from stone, the act of creating was sacred in its own quiet way. You pause beside a potter's workshop, drawn by the rhythmic thump of hands against clay. The man inside barely looks up as you step near. His wheel spins with a low, hypnotic hum, his fingers moving deftly, confidently, coaxing a vessel into shape. Each touch is measured, each pause deliberate. You watch as he draws the lip outward, smoothing it with the wet edge of his palm. The vase begins to resemble the ones you've seen in temples, elegant, symmetrical, seemingly effortless. When he finally looks up, his eyes are kind but focused, still half anchored in the world of his craft. Every pot has its own life, he says simply. You just have to find it. Then, with a small shrug, he adds, some break sooner than others, but that's all right too. You thank him and continue walking, his words lingering longer than you expect. Around the next corner, you encounter a group of scholars sitting beneath a plane tree. They're debating animatedly, gesturing, laughing, interrupting one another with bursts of excitement. The topic, as best you can tell, concerns the nature of virtue. One man insists that knowledge is the key to goodness. Another counters that action matters more than wisdom. You don't catch every word, but their energy is contagious. It's strange and beautiful, this city's obsession with thought. Even in casual conversation, even after days of celebration and feasting, the mind here never stops reaching outward, Perhaps that's what sets Athens apart, its ability to dream, even when its streets are dusty and its people tired. As you wander further, you pass the Stoa, its long colonnades filled with the echoes of sandals and voices. Artisans display jewelry and small sculptures, while traders shout the praises of their goods. Every so often, someone stops to greet an acquaintance, to exchange gossip, or to share a piece of bread. There's a rhythm to it all, commerce and friendship intertwined like threads in the same cloth. At the edge of the agora, you come upon a small temple dedicated to Hermes, god of travelers and trade. Offerings are piled at its base, handfuls of coins, sprigs of herbs, bits of polished stone. A merchant bows briefly before starting his day, touching the stone column for luck. You pause too, not out of devotion perhaps, but out of respect. In this city, even the gods seem approachable, woven into the daily act of living. Beyond the market, the streets narrow again, leading toward the workshops and quieter homes. You pass a young woman spinning wool on her doorstep, her spindle turning with hypnotic grace. She hums softly to herself, a tune that might be as old as the stones beneath her. Nearby, an old man sharpens a chisel, the metal glinting in the morning light. He catches your glance and says, "Athena's gift isn't just wisdom, you know. It's skill, hands that remember." You smile and keep moving, feeling the truth of his words in the hum of the city around you. By midday, the sun has climbed high, and the marble surfaces of the Acropolis gleam like mirrors. The streets grow busier now, citizens moving briskly with purpose, slaves carrying amphorae or parcels, children darting between them with the wild, untamed joy of youth. From somewhere uphill, you hear the faint ringing of a blacksmith's hammer, a steady rhythm that seems to echo the city's pulse. You find a shaded courtyard and rest for a moment. The walls are covered in creeping vines, and a small fig tree leans over a stone bench. You sit, sipping a bit of watered wine from your flask, and listen to the murmur of life around you. There's comfort in it, in knowing that even after the grandest festivals, after the noise and spectacle, the city returns to this simple constancy. As the afternoon light begins to mellow, you decide to climb once more toward the Acropolis. The path is quieter than before. The festival crowds have gone, and only the sound of cicadas accompanies your steps. The marble beneath your feet glows faintly gold, and the breeze carries faint traces of incense from some distant altar. When you reach the top, the view spreads out before you, Athens sprawling toward the sea, the horizon shimmering faintly under the sun. From up here, the city feels eternal. The noise fades, replaced by the sound of wind whispering across the columns. You sit among the stones, letting your thoughts drift with the breeze. You think of the artisans, the traders, the scholars, the mothers, the storytellers. Each a thread, fragile on its own, but together forming the tapestry of a city that refuses to fade. You wonder if they knew, these people of marble and myth, that the world would remember them, that thousands of years later, someone might still wander their streets in imagination, still listen for their songs. The shadows lengthen, the sun begins its slow descent, painting everything in amber. You hear a bell tolling faintly from somewhere in the lower city, a signal perhaps of the day's end. You stay seated, content to watch the light fade. It's easy to see why they built temples here. The view itself feels divine. As the first stars emerge, the city glows softly below. Fires flicker in hearths, laughter rises from courtyards, and the faint smell of bread baking drifts upward once more. The world feels both ancient and familiar, a reminder that across all the centuries, the rhythm of life has changed far less than we might think. You close your eyes and take one last deep breath. The scent of stone and olive oil, the sea breeze, the fading warmth of sunlight on marble. Athens exhales, and so do you. The evening air carries a soft chill now, the kind that brushes against your skin like a gentle reminder that night is approaching. You walk slowly through the quiet streets of Athens, your footsteps echoing softly off stone walls and narrow alleyways. The festival is long over. The city's revelers returned to homes and hearths, yet the residual warmth of laughter and celebration lingers in the air, like a faint fragrance that refuses to fade. You pass a small square where a few late artisans linger, finishing their work by the light of an oil lamp. A potter smooths the lip of a freshly thrown vase, and the clay seems to catch the glow, turning soft, earthy brown into something that feels alive under the flickering flame. The potter hums quietly, a rhythm that matches the slow beat of your heart as you pause to watch. In the quiet aftermath of a festival, these small acts, finishing a piece, tying up a bundle, sweeping a doorstep, feel sacred in their simplicity. Nearby, a group of children run through the square, their laughter subdued but persistent, chasing one another as they play a version of tag that probably existed in some form since the first olive groves were planted. One trips, catching himself on a low stone wall, and a boy behind him falls over with a yelp, both erupting into soft, contagious giggles. You can't help but smile. Even in their smallness, in their unstructured play, there's a continuation of the festival's energy, a reminder that joy doesn't end when the official events do. As you continue your walk, the scent of fresh bread from a corner bakery mingles with the lingering perfume of crushed flowers scattered during yesterday's procession. You inhale deeply, letting the aromas settle around you. Bread, honey, figs, these simple things, offered in abundance during the festival, now remain as quiet symbols of hospitality and care. Someone has left a small platter on a doorstep, a private offering for a neighbor, perhaps, or a token for the household gods. Such acts are unrecorded by historians, yet they speak volumes about everyday devotion. You turn a corner and notice a narrow path leading down toward the river. The water glints in the waning light, reflecting gold and pink streaks from the sky above. You follow it, drawn by the soft murmur of flowing water, and find a small bench beneath the shade of an olive tree. You sit, listening to the gentle lap of river against stone and the occasional splash of a fish breaking the surface. The city's noise has faded here, replaced by a natural rhythm that is both calming and enduring. Somewhere along the path, a young musician sits on a stone, plucking a lyre with careful attention. His music is soft, almost hesitant at first, but it grows steadily, weaving itself into the soundscape of flowing water and distant footsteps. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the melody intertwine with the whispering leaves above. It's neither performance nor practice. It exists simply because it can, a quiet testament to human expression that requires no audience beyond the world itself. A small altar stands nearby, dedicated to Hestia, goddess of hearth and home. Tiny candles flicker softly, casting shadows across offerings of bread, oil, and wildflowers. Someone has left a tiny coin in the hollow of a stone, an unspoken prayer or thanks. Historians still argue whether these minor rituals were personal, civic, or both, but you sense that their intent is straightforward: acknowledgement of continuity, respect for life's small miracles. You watch a few late festival goers drift past, walking with soft steps, conversing in whispers. Some carry small lanterns, their amber light painting brief, warm streaks on cobblestones. One man pauses to adjust a wreath left on a shrine, straightening the leaves as if to honor the goddess more than the city itself. Such care, mundane to an outsider, embodies the subtle reverence woven into everyday life in Athens, ritual that is unobserved yet profoundly intentional. The light begins to soften further as the sun dips lower, and you find yourself noticing details that might otherwise have escaped your attention. The way a vine curls around a column, the shimmer of water on a bronze coin, the irregular pattern of stones in the paving. Each small element feels imbued with quiet significance, a testament to human attention and care. You remember that the Greeks often linked artistry with worship, believing that beauty in everyday objects pleased the gods as much as grand temples or statues. You lean back on the bench,
inhaling the mingled scents of earth, olive leaves, and cooling river water. The city hums faintly in the distance, the soft clatter of late tradesmen, the low murmur of neighbors finishing their evening chores. Nothing intrudes, nothing demands attention. This, you realize, is another kind of festival, a celebration of calm, of continuity, of the steady pulse of life that persists between noise and spectacle. A soft breeze stirs the leaves above you, scattering tiny petals across the path. The river ripples in response, catching the last light of day and reflecting it in fragmented patterns. Somewhere, a dog barks faintly, quickly silenced by the distance. Cicadas begin their rhythmic hum, a subtle metronome marking the approach of night. You notice a small gathering near a fountain, a handful of elders sharing stories of festivals past, their words slow and deliberate. One speaks of a procession decades ago, describing the music, the dancers, the offerings, and the quiet satisfaction that follows. Another mentions the care taken with minor rituals, the unnoticed acts of kindness that form the backbone of civic and spiritual life. Their conversation, low and reflective, underscores a simple truth. Celebration is meaningful not just in spectacle, but in the memory it leaves and the gentle acts it inspires. The sky deepens into dusky violet, stars beginning to prick the heavens. A faint crescent moon rises above the Acropolis, casting silver light across rooftops and olive groves. You breathe in the evening air, letting its coolness settle into your chest and shoulders. Even the city itself seems to exhale, releasing the residual energy of the festival into calm. You stand, stretching slowly, and begin to make your way back toward the lodging you know awaits. Along the path, lanterns flicker gently. Shadows stretch and melt into one another, and the world seems both ancient and alive, holding within it the remnants of celebration and the quiet promise of continuity. You walk unhurried, carrying the scent of earth, the sound of river, and the gentle echo of music in your memory. Evenings like this, you realize, are themselves a festival, a quieter one, but no less sacred. The rhythm of wind through leaves, the distant laughter, the soft murmur of water, the careful placement of a tiny offering, all of it constitutes a celebration of life in its slowest, most deliberate form. And you, simply by being present, are part of it, woven into the living memory of Athens in your own small, quiet way. Night drifts in gradually, a gentle cloak settling over Athens, softening edges, muting colors, and drawing the city into a slower, deeper rhythm. You wander through the quiet streets, following the gentle curve of the roads as they wind toward the Acropolis. The marble glows faintly in the moonlight, pale silver against the darkening sky, and the shadows stretch long and peaceful across worn stone. The festival is now a memory, but its echoes linger, tucked into the rhythm of the city, in the warmth of hearths, and the soft laughter of families finishing their evening meals. You pass the empty agora, where only the faint rustle of wind across olive branches disturbs the silence. The torches of the festival are long extinguished, and yet you can almost imagine them still flickering, dancing with the same gentle energy you observed the day before. The thought makes you smile. Festivals may end, but their spirit often lingers longer than anyone expects, like incense smoke curling lazily into a starry night. Ahead, the streets narrow again, hemmed in by walls of sun-warmed stone. A few late stragglers walk slowly, carrying lanterns that cast warm pools of light across the cobbles. You notice small shrines tucked into alcoves, offerings of bread, a coin, a sprig of herb. Each one evidence of devotion, small enough to escape history books, but significant enough to linger in memory. Historians still argue whether these minor acts were private, civic, or a subtle mix of both, but their quiet presence resonates with you. In a small courtyard, you see a group of women tending to lanterns and small fires. Their movements are careful, deliberate, almost ritualistic.
One gently adjusts a flame so it doesn't smolder too high. Another sets a tiny platter of olives beside it. They whisper to each other softly, laughter subdued, carrying the same warmth that filled the festival days before. Even in ordinary acts, there's reverence, a quiet echo of the public celebration now softened into personal care. You continue along the stone path leading to a grove on the outskirts of the city. The air is cooler here, scented faintly with herbs and damp earth. The cicadas have begun their nighttime rhythm, a steady hum that seems to anchor the world. You pause beneath an olive tree, running your fingers along its rough bark and listening to the faint rustle of leaves above. Somewhere, a nightingale begins to sing, its melody weaving through the hum of insects, the occasional plop of water from a distant fountain, and the soft murmur of late walkers. A small fountain rests beneath a plane tree nearby, the water glinting silver in the moonlight. You approach it and kneel, letting your hands skim the cool surface. The sound of flowing water is hypnotic, steady, and comforting. You watch reflections of olive branches flicker across the ripples. A soft sense of peace settles over you, the kind that comes only after the day's noise has faded and only gentle life remains. Nearby, a young musician plays a simple tune on a lyre, the notes floating easily across the garden. He doesn't seem to notice your presence, and you are glad of it. The music isn't for an audience. It exists simply to exist, to drift into the quiet night, to fill space that would otherwise be empty. There's something profoundly soothing in witnessing this. The realization that not all acts of art are meant to impress, that sometimes creation itself is enough. You notice a few figures moving quietly among the trees. An old man adjusting a small lamp on a shrine, a woman arranging flowers at its base, a boy kneeling to leave a coin. These acts are modest, almost invisible, but they carry a weight that resonates through the night. There's a continuity here, a sense of life flowing through small, intentional gestures. This, too, is part of the festival's legacy, a celebration that doesn't always roar, but whispers. As you continue along a winding path, you find yourself near a grove where the festival's dancers once practiced. The space is empty now, the earth pressed and flattened in faint patterns from countless feet. You kneel briefly, tracing a line in the dust with your fingertip. It feels sacred, even though it is simply dirt, because of what it witnessed. The echoes of laughter, music, and movement remain faint but present, a ghostly chorus that only the patient or the attentive can hear. Historians still argue whether these festivals were primarily religious, civic, or social in function. Some claim the dances and songs were symbolic, others argue they were strictly celebratory. Standing here, you feel both truths in the same instant, the sacred and the ordinary, intertwined like vines around a column. The night deepens, and the stars begin to spread like scattered grains of silver. The moon hangs low, casting a pale glow that softens the outlines of trees and walls. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks once and is silent again. The city exhales around you, a gentle, steady pulse of quiet life. You inhale slowly, savoring the scents of earth, olive leaves, and cool evening air, feeling yourself become part of this rhythm, part of the quiet continuation of celebration. A soft breeze stirs, scattering petals from nearby shrubs. The petals settle on the ground like confetti left behind after a festival, delicate reminders that beauty persists even in absence. You smile softly, watching them. There's a small statue of a nymph nearby, partially hidden in shadow. You wonder who left it here, who tends to it in secret, who remembers its presence as part of daily life rather than spectacle. These small, unnoticed acts of devotion, like petals drifting to the ground, carry a quiet dignity, a festival that exists in permanence rather than performance. The lyre's music drifts farther into the night, joined now by the soft rustle of leaves, the murmurs of distant passers-by, and the occasional plop of water from fountains unseen. The harmony of human life and nature is subtle but profound, a rhythm you find yourself aligning with. Every breath, every footstep, every sound seems carefully orchestrated, even if it's only orchestrated by the passage of time. You close your eyes briefly, letting the soundscape of night and memory settle around you. The festival has ended, yet it persists, not in fire and music, not in dance or feasting, but in quiet gestures, in attention, in the slow unfolding of life itself. Peace, you realize, is not just the absence of noise. It's the presence of continuity, care, and attentive presence. You rise, finally, brushing dust from your sandals, and begin the slow walk back to your lodging. The streets are shadowed now, lit only by lanterns and moonlight. Every sound, every scent, every flicker of movement feels heightened, as if the city itself has learned to savor the quiet. You carry with you the memory of laughter, music, devotion, and play, knowing that while festivals end, the life they celebrate continues quietly, beautifully, in every deliberate, mindful moment. Night deepens, folding the city into a slow, hushed rhythm. The festival is fully behind you now, yet its traces linger like the final notes of a song that linger in the air long after the last instrument has fallen silent. You step through narrow, winding streets, your sandals making a soft scrape against worn stone, the echo a gentle companion in the quiet. Every corner you pass seems to hold a memory, a whisper of the celebrations that unfolded here, the laughter of children, the clang of bronze, the soft murmur of offerings left at shrines. The Acropolis rises above the city, its marble gleaming faintly in moonlight. Even in darkness, its presence dominates, a reminder of order, endurance, and the enduring devotion of countless Athenians. You pause to look up, noticing the faint glimmer of stars scattered behind it, their light soft but insistent, like distant witnesses to centuries of human activity. The festival may have ended, but these silent observers, the stones, the statues, the stars, carry its echo forward. Walking further, you enter a small courtyard where a few late-night travelers and city dwellers linger. They speak in whispers, gestures deliberate, voices low. Some tend to lanterns, adjusting the flame so it does not flare too high. Others leave small offerings of bread, oil, or coins on low shrines. You realize that much of what constitutes a festival, its devotion, its care, is often unseen, unnoticed by the throngs. It exists in these tiny, intimate acts, quietly observed by those who are present. Historians still argue whether such private rituals were merely extensions of public celebrations, or if they held their own distinct significance. Either way, their subtlety does not diminish their impact. You continue through a grove just beyond the city, where olive and cypress trees sway gently in a warm night breeze. The scent of crushed leaves, earth, and a hint of jasmine fills the air. A small stream gurgles nearby, winding its way through the undergrowth, reflecting moonlight like scattered silver coins. You kneel to touch the water, letting its coolness seep into your palms. The motion is soothing, meditative, a quiet echo of the ceremonial cleansing that may have occurred after festival rites. In a secluded corner of the grove, you notice a young couple sitting quietly on a stone bench, sharing fruit and a flask of watered wine. Their conversation is soft, private, almost secretive, yet it carries a gentle rhythm that harmonizes with the evening's natural melody. Moments like these, small and fleeting, are part of the festival's enduring spirit, a celebration that does not rely on public spectacle, but on human connection and shared attention. Nearby, a solitary musician plays a low, tender tune on a lyre. The notes drift into the night, soft and unhurried, blending with the sound of leaves rustling, water trickling, and distant night animals calling. The music is hypnotic, not demanding your attention, merely inviting it. You close your eyes for a moment, allowing yourself to be carried along with the gentle rise and fall of melody, the subtle pulse of the night. A lantern flickers nearby, illuminating a small altar dedicated to Hestia, the goddess of hearth and home. The offerings are humble: a small piece of bread, a coin, and a sprig of herb. Someone has taken the time to arrange them carefully, placing each item with deliberate attention. You pause to observe, recognizing the quiet reverence in these gestures. Even without a crowd, even without fanfare, devotion continues, patient, persistent, and deeply human. You move along a narrow path that winds beneath arches of flowering vines. Their petals have begun to fall, creating a carpet of delicate color on the stones beneath your feet. Each step releases faint fragrances of crushed blooms, a gentle reminder that beauty and joy often persist in subtle ways, long after the festival's grand gestures have concluded. In the distance, you hear soft laughter. A group of elders are seated beneath a plane tree, sharing stories of festivals past. One recalls a dance that went on until dawn, describing the movement with careful attention to detail. Another speaks of the sacrifices and offerings, emphasizing the meaning found in quiet preparation rather than in spectacle. You listen from afar, recognizing the rhythm of memory that these moments create. Even as festivals fade, their essence survives in the stories and quiet reflections of those who witnessed them. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves above you, scattering a few petals across the path. The stream gurgles softly, the lyre's notes linger, and the cicadas continue their rhythmic hum. The night feels alive yet serene, a living testament to balance between activity and rest, celebration and reflection. You feel your heartbeat slow, matching the rhythm of this nocturnal symphony. You pause to gaze toward the city's heart, where small lights flicker in windows and lanterns. It's easy to imagine the families inside, finishing their evening meals, tending fires, sharing quiet words after the day's activity. The festival has ended, but its residue remains in these moments, gentle, pervasive, unremarkable to the unobservant, but profound to anyone who notices. Finally, you find a stone ledge near the grove's edge. You sit, letting the night wrap around you. The breeze carries the faint sound of distant water, the soft rustle of leaves, and the murmured echoes of people long gone to bed. Somewhere, a dog barks softly, then silence returns. You breathe deeply, inhaling the scents of earth, flowers, and cooling stone. The city exhales, and so do you, settling into a rhythm that is slow, deliberate, and profoundly peaceful. Here, in the quiet aftermath of celebration, you understand something essential. Festivals are not only the noise, the music, the sacrifices, or the dances. They are also the spaces in between. The moments when the city, its people, and even you pause to notice, reflect, and simply exist. In these quiet acts, the true essence of joy and reverence persists, stretching beyond time, festival, or memory. The night grows deeper now, wrapping Athens in a soft, star-studded veil. Streets that were bustling with laughter and celebration only days before now lie quiet, bathed in the silver glow of moonlight. You walk slowly through them, savoring the gentle hush that seems to stretch across every corner and every archway. There's an intimacy to this darkness, a subtle reminder that the festival's energy has not disappeared, it has merely transformed, settling into a gentle, enduring rhythm. As you approach the Acropolis once more, you notice the faint outline of columns and steps, their shadows stretched long and elegant in the night. The Parthenon glows faintly under the moon, a monument not only to the gods, but to human attention, care, and creativity. You pause at the base, feeling the cool marble beneath your fingertips, imagining the countless hands that have touched this stone over the centuries. Historians still debate how much of its original splendor was due to religious devotion versus civic pride. But tonight, the distinction feels irrelevant. What matters is presence,
yours, theirs, and that of the city itself. From this vantage point, you can see the city sprawled beneath you. Streets like silver threads, lanterns flickering softly, courtyards glowing with faint life. The distant laughter of children, now subdued, mingles with the occasional splash from a fountain or the soft murmur of a late traveler. Everything hums in harmony, a gentle, living pulse that carries the festival's echoes long after the music and dancing have ceased. You wander toward a small garden tucked along a side path. Olive trees sway in the night breeze, and the air is perfumed faintly with thyme, jasmine, and the earthiness of sun-warmed soil cooling in darkness. A fountain trickles quietly in the corner, its silver ripples catching the faint light. You kneel, dipping your fingers in, feeling the cool water, and imagining the hands of countless Athenians who once performed similar acts of reflection after a festival, seeking solace or connection in the world around them. A soft sound reaches your ears, the delicate pluck of a lyre, almost hidden beneath the rustle of leaves. A musician sits on a stone bench nearby, his notes slow and unhurried, weaving through the night air like a gentle current. The melody is neither celebratory nor mournful. It simply exists, a musical breath that mirrors the city's own quiet rhythm. You close your eyes briefly, letting it wrap around you, a private serenade honoring the end of festivities and the continuity of life. Nearby, a few small altars glimmer in the moonlight, humble offerings left for Hestia, Hermes, or perhaps a local nymph. Breadcrumbs, coins, and sprigs of herbs rest upon them, silent reminders of devotion that needs no audience. You pause to observe, feeling a quiet reverence in these simple acts. In their modesty, there is a profound connection to the city, to its people, and to the delicate balance between human effort and divine acknowledgement. You walk slowly through the grove, noting how shadows twist across the paths, blending with moonlight in gentle patterns. The cicadas begin their nocturnal chorus, steady and hypnotic. Somewhere in the distance, the faint hum of a river reaches your ears, mingling with the soft creak of a wooden gate or the murmur of an unseen conversation. Each sound, each scent, each movement feels deliberate, as if the world itself is exhaling after the festival's intensity. A solitary elder passes by, carrying a small lantern. She moves with careful attention, pausing occasionally to adjust a candle or to place a small offering of flowers at a shrine. Her movements are deliberate, infused with the rhythm of habit and devotion. You watch silently, recognizing that festivals are more than spectacle. They persist in these quiet gestures, these intimate acts of care that keep the spirit alive long after the crowds have gone. The moon rises higher, illuminating the Acropolis once again. The shadows beneath the columns shift and lengthen, creating shapes that feel almost alive. You imagine dancers from the festival moving across the stone, their steps now ghostly, their laughter carried softly on the night breeze. The thought makes you smile. Even absent, they persist, not as phantoms, but as memories woven into the city's enduring rhythm. You settle on a low bench beneath a cypress tree, the cool night air brushing against your skin. The stars above glimmer faintly, reflected in the river below, creating a tapestry of light that feels both infinite and intimate. You breathe deeply, letting the night settle into you, carrying with it the scents, sounds, and quiet resonance of Athens. The city's heartbeat is steady, slow, and patient, reminding you that even in the quiet, life continues, rich and full. The final echoes of laughter and music from the festival seem to mingle with the wind, drifting through olive trees, courtyards, and streets. You imagine the priests, dancers, artisans, and children, each one a thread in a larger tapestry, their contributions subtle but enduring. Every small gesture of devotion, every quiet reflection, every whispered conversation or gentle smile forms part of the ongoing rhythm,
the invisible continuity that makes life feel sacred even without ceremony. Now, as the night deepens, the garden quiets further. The lyre rests, the fountains trickle softly, and the city exhales fully into stillness. You feel the same calm settling into your chest, your limbs heavy with the satisfaction of observation and reflection. The festival, with all its spectacle, is gone, but its spirit remains, in small acts, in quiet spaces, in attention paid to the world and each other. You lean back, letting the cypress shade and moonlight embrace you. The air is cool, the scents gentle, and the distant city hum a lullaby. You feel the pulse of life slowing, your own rhythm aligning with the soft night. The world is still vast, vibrant, and alive, yet in this moment, it is serene, patient, and enduring. As your thoughts soften, the final wind down begins. The air grows softer, your eyelids heavier, and your mind drifts gently across memories of marble columns, dancing feet, laughter, and the quiet devotion of everyday life. The scent of olive trees, the whisper of leaves, the trickle of fountains, and the faint resonance of a lyre all meld into a slow, comforting cadence. You feel your muscles relax, your heart beats steady, and the city's pulse matching your own. The festival, once full of noise and movement, now exists in stillness, a gentle, persistent hum that reminds you of the beauty in quiet, reflection, and presence. Let the night carry you. Let your thoughts soften, and let the peaceful rhythms of Athens lull you toward rest. Sweet dreams.